positive feedback loop occurs in nature when the product of a reaction leads to an increase in that reaction. A simple example is the process of fruit ripening. When the first apple on an apple tree begins to ripen, it emits a gas known as ethylene. This gas is not only a byproduct of the ripening process, but acts as a stimulus of the process as well. When nearby apples are exposed to this gas, they themselves will begin to ripen. This sets into motion a process by which apples ripening causes apples to ripen. The same type of positive feedback loop can be observed in mankind's relationship to Bitcoin. The more value we give to Bitcoin, the more valuable it becomes. And the more valuable it becomes, the more value we give to it. Bitcoin attracts this value by virtue of its objective properties. In other words, the reason people value Bitcoin is because they are able to trust Bitcoin. Paradoxically, Bitcoin earns this trust by not requiring it in the first place. With its actions being governed by computer code, Bitcoin does not require trust in any human beings. This can be contrasted to the US dollar, which is manipulated heavily by both the Federal Reserve and the US government. To trust the US dollar is to trust the institutions behind the dollar. To trust Bitcoin is to trust mathematics. The obvious question becomes, if Bitcoin is more trustworthy than the dollar, then why do far more people trust the dollar today than Bitcoin? The short answer is that the US dollar, loosely defined, is over 200 years old, while Bitcoin was created just 13 years ago. Despite its desirable objective qualities, it is entirely predictable that so many people are still skeptical of Bitcoin. In fact, being just 13 years old, it is remarkable that so many people already do trust Bitcoin. Many people point to Bitcoin's volatility as reason for their lack of trust. How can I trust that my purchase of one Bitcoin for $60,000 today won't be worth $30,000 a month from now? While certainly a valid question on the surface, the truth is that anyone asking this question is simply thinking from the wrong paradigm. One Bitcoin today equals exactly 1/21 millionth of the total supply of Bitcoin. This was true 10 years ago and will be true 10 years from now. Bitcoin does not know the concept of price. Price is simply a representation of value based on the preferences of the market. Since knowledge and understanding are not evenly distributed, the dollar value of Bitcoin will continue to fluctuate wildly until its true value is more accurately represented by the price. Many people claim that Bitcoin can never achieve global reserve status until its volatility smooths out. But the truth is precisely the reverse. Bitcoin's volatility will only smooth out when the entire world finally owns it. Currently, with less than 5% of the world owning Bitcoin, and many big banks and governments still recommending their clients and constituents to stay away, Bitcoin's volatility is far from over. Humans are copycat creatures. We look to the success of others for inspiration. The successful adoption of the Bitcoin standard at the sovereign, corporate, and individual level is not being ignored by the masses. The larger Bitcoin gets, the more powerful its gravity becomes. The more powerful its gravity becomes, the larger it gets. There is a new gold rush that has only just begun, and unlike the previous, it will be available to every human on Earth with access to the internet.